Hey folks, I'm Chuck Black. We're doing 52 weeks of Python in 10-minute sessions. The topic for this week is printing. Why are we talking about printing? We've already done some printing. You say, well, we just want to understand it better. Why is printing important? Well, if you're going to do something like this, then you're going to need to understand how printing works and other situations where you're just printing out information about devices, about hosts, about people, about anything. You're going to want to know how to manipulate the data that you print out. And so that's what we will be covering. So let's get started. Okay, so let's look at this code. It's L05_printing, and let's see what it does. The first thing that we do is we call create devices. Remember, that is a function that we located in a different Python module. So we're going to call into that and get returned devices. Devices is going to be a list of devices, and every device is a dictionary, so it's a list of dictionaries. We're going to look at printing it just using the print statement. This is not a typo. We're using pprint to see what that looks a little bit better. We're going to go through a loop, so we have a for loop here where we're printing it out. We're going to use tabulate to print it out, and this is the part that I would like you to learn, which is where we're going to do a for loop, but we're going to print it out in a nice manner. So we do that here. The only difference with this one is that I am actually sorting the devices. And then lastly, we're going to learn about having print statements that print and don't do a carriage return line feed at the end, but wait until a later point in time. And here's an example of the output that you can see. So let us take a look at the code line by line and see what it does. So let's start with this first statement. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get this to go away so that I can see more of it. Here's my output, and let's have a look. All I do after I do create devices, remember I can do Control B right here to take me into create devices if I want to know what's going on. A lot of interesting stuff to create these random names for the devices, but we're not looking at that. We're looking at printing. So remember, it's a list of dictionaries. All I'm going to do is print it out. Can I do that? The answer is yes, I can. What does it look like? Well, you can see that that's only the beginning. If I was to start to scroll over here, you'd see this goes on and on and on and on and on. And in fact, I only have 10 devices. So clearly that's not going to be the best way to print things out just by doing a print statement. So a little bit better is using pprint. Remember, pprint is the function that we import, and it does what we call a pretty print. So it's going to format my nested data structure. So let's look at it using pprint, and as we can see here, remember the square bracket, that is indicating that this is going to be a list. There's the ending square bracket. Within my list, there is going to be, like I said, a collection or a sequence of dictionaries, and every dictionary, as I referred to it, kind of generally, is it represents a device. So I have an IP address and a name and an OS and a vendor and a version, because you see these curly brackets right here. Let's see if I can select the curly bracket right there, and there's a colon with something on the left and something on the right. That tells you that this whole thing is going to be a dictionary, and the thing on the left is going to be a key. The key is the string IP, and the value is the string, the IP address, and then the same for name, OS, vendor, and version, etc. And if I just want a quick and dirty way of printing things out that's readable for a human being, pprint or pprint is a nice way to do that. So let's take a little bit more responsibility and print these things out one at a time. So here we see I have a for loop. Remember my for loop, I say for, and then I have a variable name here, and then I say in, and then this needs to be something that is iterable like a list. And guess what? Devices, remember, what did I say it was? It is a list of dictionaries. So I'm going to go through here, and every item that is in devices is going to actually be a dictionary that is a device. And what I'm going to do is print it out. Now this stuff right here is completely unnecessary for my description, so ignore it. Think of it exactly like that. I'm just printing them out one at a time. The stuff that I just deleted is for creating this last heard stuff here. So let's take a look and see what the output looks like. So this is my using a loop, and you can see This is a little bit better. It's still kind of wide and long, but look, I'm using a loop and I'm printing these out one at a time. Here is my dictionary. So I'm printing out this dictionary, and it's at this size, it's probably readable because it's in the correct order: name, vendor, OS, version, IP, and last heard. So it's almost usable, but it's really not the way we would want to print it out if we were going to be giving it to our boss. But that's what we're doing. Let me just undo this. And what I was doing here is I'm adding this last heard field. And just for information's sake, I'm taking this device thing, which I got from devices, and I'm actually adding a new field to it. I'm adding last heard to it. So at this point in time, once I've gone through all of these devices, every one of my devices will not only have the original stuff, IP address, version, etc. It will also have a field with a key called last heard, and that will be interesting when I print this out down here. Now the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm not going to spend time talking about because we've actually done this before, but we're going to use Tabulate to print it out, and I'm sorting it along the way. You don't need to worry about this. I wouldn't concern yourself with it. It's a quick and dirty way, once again, to print things out in a manner. If you are happy with something like that, then it gives you a quick way of doing it. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing our own loop and printing these things out as we want them to be printed out like that. And that's what this next thing is going to be all about. Now this next code, we are doing all the hard work. Once again, we're iterating through devices, and for every single device, we're going to do this one print statement. And what is in my print statement? Well, it's a big F string, and you can see how long it is. Now you can imagine it took me a while to get these all so that it lines up correctly. Here I'm saying take 7 spaces and write justify. Here I'm saying take 10 spaces. And remember, when we have F strings, these curly braces say the thing inside is a variable. So this right here is my variable as well as formatting. So here I'm left justifying the OS, here I'm left justifying the IP address, and here lastly I'm just letting it print it out without any formatting. But look at this thing right here. This is slicing of strings. We didn't go into this, but I can specify the beginning point of the string, which is going to be at the very beginning because I don't specify it. Then I do a colon, and then I specify the ending spot. And if I do a minus, then I'm telling Python, I want you to print everything except the last 4 characters. If I had a positive number here, I would be saying print the first 23 characters or something of that nature. So this is basically telling Python about all the formatting, and lo and behold, it comes out looking pretty good. Be advised, you will go through many iterations of adding spaces and trying to get it exactly right, and you'll be saying to yourself, I'm just going to use Tabulate. Well, you can do that, but if you're going to do something like this, you're going to need to spend the time to make sure that it looks nice and lined up, etc. So that is the code that actually implements that. Let's see, where did my pycharm code go? That's the code that actually implements it. Now you may look at this and say, that's a long line, I wish I didn't have that. Well, look at what I can do with pycharm. I'm putting my cursor right there. I'm actually going to do this. This is something I didn't know was possible with pycharm or with actually Python, the later versions of Python. It's formatting it nicely, and it's also making sure that each one of these is a separate F string. So it added a bunch of stuff to it for me. It did all this formatting for me when I just hit return. And when I run this, you will see that it is going to be able to print things up just the way that we would like it to be printed out. The last thing I'll point out is if I want my devices to be sorted, I can do this trick that I've done before that I haven't gone into a great amount of detail. You can look into the longer version of this if you're interested in the sorted function, but this will sort based on last heard. So I'm basically sorting these by the time that I have. Oh, this is the one descending by last heard, and you'll see this is in a different order than those up above. Okay, I've run out of time, and so I'm going to make this really quick. This is just showing you, once again, I'm doing my for loop. This is just showing you if you want to print something and have it not do a carriage return line feed at the end, then you do this thing which is kind of silly, which is comma end equals quote quote, and it will pause, and then when you print again, it will print that at the end of the line. And let me run this so that you see what it actually looks like. We're going to get down here. Do you see how it's printing that out a little bit at a time? So it's doing done on the same line as the rest of the stuff there. So that's how you can print everything on the same line. And here I'm using choice just to wait for some random number of seconds. All right, I've gone over in time, so here's a quick review. I'm doing a print first, and then I do pretty print, which makes it look a little bit better. Then I went through and did a for loop to print everything out. Then I used Tabulate, the cheater's way, to print everything out. Then I did it for real, where I'm actually formatting things appropriately with headers. I did that with sorted data. And lastly, I showed you how to print without doing a carriage for line feed so that you can add something at the end. Phew! Hope that made sense. Sorry I went over a little bit. If you do have any questions, let me know. And thanks for listening. Oh, and make sure you write this code. That's how you'll learn it. Bye.